A typical study routine would start something like this. Step 1. Take all of your existing notes you have written. Step 2. Study until you collapse. Step 3. Wake up a couple of hours later and wonder who the heck and where the heck you are. Step 4. Wipe your drool off the keyboard and activate your arm again. Step 5. Chuck down ungodly amounts of caffeine. Step 6. Repeat that shit. And you can imagine where that leads.
It leads to extremely high academic performance.
I want to share my study tips which have helped me to learn new things at a really fast pace and got me pretty good grades so far in life without doing all-nighters and grinding my sanity away. This video is more like, how can I convince my brain to do shit fast? You know, something minimal, something effective that actually leads to results. I mean, oftentimes school or studying in general is not the most, enjoyable activity to do. So let's get started. The environment.
No, we are not talking about trees.
Before doing anything related to studying, setting up an environment is everything for me. In the end, efficient studying just comes down to blocking out all distractions and just doing the damn work. For the so-called deep work we wanna do, more on that later, we can't let our workflow be interrupted by anything. Even tiny distractions do interrupt our workflow, and every single time it takes a while to get into the flow again, which is really draining for our brain. So what I like to do is putting the phone in another room and tell my roommate, hey, don't interrupt me, put on some noise cancelling headphones and then just focus. And over the years of studying, I figured out that the phone is really the biggest distractions of all. So in my case, just having my phone in the same room consumes brain capacity. You know, it's like being really hungry and there's a cake next to you, but you can't touch it. You know, this sucks and drains our willpower. There's always a part of our monkey brain that craves a dopamine kick from notifications or whatever makes you grab the phone without you even realizing it. Libraries are an amazing place if you have too much distractions at home, parents, pets, roommate, etc. So all the study hacks and productivity techniques aside, I found that an environment where you can find peace is actually the best place to start. Deep work. Once I found a good environment to, inhale all the necessary knowledge, I go right to the proper execution. It's time to face the actual demon. So this is where deep work comes in. Deep work is just a fancy word for, absolute focus, a time spent in full concentration. And in this world, in this economy, the ability to do deep work is literally a superpower. While everyone else is distracted, if you're able to do deep work, you're actually one of the rare people who actually get shit done and achieve amazing results in life. So for me personally, dividing my study times in about 45 minutes to 1 hour chunks is the best time frame to actually get stuff done. And in that time period, I'm entirely focused on my task. Nothing else, just work. So there's a huge benefit of dividing the study session into these time chunks. So picture this scenario for a second. You have this huge mountain of reading assignments in front of you and you're sure that you need at least, let's say 5 hours to finish that crap. I can totally relate to you. It's not a fun activity to do and I would also be totally unmotivated to do it. Actually, 5 hours sounds like a lot and there's not really a structure in that schedule. But for example, setting up 50-minute periods and having 5 of them will give it some structure and you have a good overview over the stuff you gotta do. And tackling these 50-minute chunks seems way easier than the 5-hour monster. So after the, let's say 50 minutes, I usually take a break for 10 minutes, maybe grab a glass of water and recharge a bit. During the breaks, I avoid touching my phone. And then repeat the cycle as often as I want. And it works wonders. Suddenly you're able to work for 4 hours, 5 hours, and it's actually quite enjoyable. And on top of that, studying before going to bed was truly one of my biggest tactical advantages. So my typical exam study routine would look something like this. On the day before the exam, I would put my phone in another room at about 8 PM and then do hyper-focused deep work for about 30 minutes to 1 hour. And then immediately go to sleep. During sleep, the brain can process the study material with, crazy efficiency. So on the next day, you wake up in the morning, take the exam with the study stuff still fresh in your head, and usually the results are pretty good. So to truly study effectively, it's better to study alone rather than in a group. And this is where especially introverts can truly shine. At first glance, studying with multiple people seems to be a good idea. Like, why not exchange knowledge, motivate each other, and suffer together? It seems like a beautiful thing to do, but I found that the truly effective way of studying is, one, doing some deep work, but two, the deep work is better done alone
with no distractions.
Fortunately, study groups are one single big-ass distraction. Most of the time I separated my studying from social activities. And personally, I'm having a really hard time studying with my homies, because I know for a fact that the conversation is gonna go to something else than studying. Showing each other memes, all of that stuff. Happened to me before. It's not that productive. Studying might seem lonely sometimes, but when I really don't understand something, I do go and ask my homies for help, or they come to me with a question. But after that, I return to my solo work. I want you to try this out. Group studying and deep work. You might find a perfect study group. I'm very open to being wrong. Studying alone for most of the time is just my personal preference because it got me the results I wanted. So some things are done alone in life, and some things in a group. Music is something I personally use to stay extremely focused. Having some calm music playing in the background makes the entire study process a bit more fun, I recently fell in love with these calm and chill lo-fi beats, so I started creating them myself and upload them to YouTube. So if you're interested, check them out. They are totally free. Finding your study type. I never really knew what kind of learner I was until I wrote one exam with barely taking notes in class. And after repeating that a couple of times, back then it was actually quite a risky thing to do, but after that I knew for myself that I don't study effectively with notes. There are quite a number of different study types, so to not bore you or anything, I will rapid fire them and you can see what you identify yourself with. Active study. This is all about actively engaging with the material, taking notes, summarizing key points and answering questions. Second, passive study. Passive study is reading or listening to information without actively engaging with it. Visual study. As the name suggests, here you use visual aids such as diagrams, charts and graphs. 4. Auditory study, listening to information, for example lectures or podcasts. Kinesthetic study is all about hands-on learning, experiments, activities, etc. Collaborative study. This is with others, such as through group projects or study groups. And 7. Memorization study, which is through repetition and other techniques to memorize information. So in total 7 different study types. What people often miss is that there are some things that can be done outside of studying, which will make studying an easier process. The private life is a good reflection of the study progress and results. Exercise, getting good sleep, how organized is someone's room. My mantra throughout my entire school life has been get the maximum results with minimum effort. I never did all-nighters and sacrificed my sleep for extra study hours. It's not about looking for the perfect study life hack, it's more about doing the basics and doing them well. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments or on the Discord server. Stay focused.